Hi everyone, and welcome to Meeting After the Meeting. This week we are lucky enough to have with us Tracy Lovvorn. Tracy is running for Congressional, see if I get this right, Tracy, Congressional District 2 Congress, and she is running against an incumbent who's been there for 23 years. As we've talked before, you know I'm for term limits, and this is one of the reasons. 23 years against Jim McGovern.
Yes, again.
So welcome, Tracy.
Thank you so much. Welcome. I know it's been a couple years since I've been out here, so thank you for having me on again. I really appreciate it.
And Tracy, I do want to remind everyone, as I said before, we've been having different people coming on, and I'm very excited when we see someone who's taken the time out of their life, out of their work schedule to say, I want to serve. And you did this before, how many years ago now?
Just 2018.
Okay, so 2 years ago against Jim McGovern, you ran and you did not give up. You are here again. So though I try to be neutral, this is something that I think is important no matter what side you're on, Democrat, Republican. When people take that time, I'm glad that if they don't make it, that they don't give up and they still are here. So with that, I'm going to say welcome back again. And the main thing, Tracy, is I want to give you the time to tell our viewers and voters that are out there what you're all about, why you're here, and go for it.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Well, hopefully some people remember that I did run in 2018. And you could always look me up on tracyforcongress.com, TRACYFOR, tracyforcongress.com. Follow me on Facebook. It's Tracy Lovvorn for Congress, TRACYLOVVORN. Tracy Lovvorn for Congress on Facebook, also on Twitter. That's really our primary mode of being able to get any information out there, because we're not $1 million campaign. We really rely on people telling their friends, liking and sharing, and just trying to get a true grassroots campaign out there, which is what people say they want. I'm a physical therapist, and that's something that we found out we had in common last time. I did home health care for a while as well. But one of the things that I kind of talk about, I try to talk about a lot, is back in 2009, I was working in skilled nursing centers. And I worked in skilled nursing for a good 20 years of my career. I identified some Medicare fraud and patient abuse at that time. We talked a lot about that last time when I was out here. I uncovered that fraud, and it was a long story, a long process, but I worked with the Department of, the Department of Justice, the Department of Health and Human Services, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid down in D.C., the U.S. Attorney General's office in Philadelphia. And over about a 4 or 5 year investigation, we basically won the case. And this was a company that was working in Canada, and they had about 250 skilled nursing facilities throughout the United States. And since we won that case, that company divested all their operations in the United States. They're no longer abusing our frail and elderly patients, and they're no longer taking advantage of our Medicare program. Well, since that case, there's been so many other cases that have followed suit, and now hundreds of millions of dollars have been returned to the Medicare Trust Fund.
Isn't that what we wanted to see done?
That's what we want to see done. You see something wrong and you fight to fix it. Well, I just want to talk about coronavirus and what we've had happen here in Massachusetts. In Worcester County alone. Now, I know we go out, this district covers Franklin, Hamden, Worcester County, even down in Norfolk County. But just in Worcester County, 75% of the deaths from coronavirus has happened in our skilled nursing facilities.
Wow, I didn't even realize that, Tracy.
75%. Wow. And what's so upsetting about that is that could have been prevented. It did not happen in other states that severely. Even in Florida, where they have such a high population of senior citizens. We had a facility out at the Cape who the administrator did exactly what she needed to do. We knew this coronavirus was happening back in February when it came to Washington State, Life Care Center, 30 residents died from coronavirus. So we knew it was going to impact the frail, elderly population that were sick, which is a skilled nursing center, a retirement community. And instead of preparing for that, our congressman completely let us down. Our congressman needed to be working with the Department of Health and Human Services, with the Centers for Medicaid and Medicare Services, and he needed to be helping our governor prepare for that so our facilities could have prepared better and prevented these deaths. So yes, I put this directly on our congressman because he was not working with our administration. He constantly works against, but we need the federal resources to help. And quite frankly, we're coming up into fall. Fall, we are going to experience more, most likely coronavirus. We're going to experience more flu. And we're going to need those resources. Now, in the skilled nursing environment, they're under a survey. They're under a federal survey process that the state implements. That means at the state, we knew which facilities in our state needed the most help. We know which facilities have employee or staffing problems, and we know which facilities historically have infection control issues. So in not reaching out to punish these facilities, but look at the history, we could have identified which facilities needed the most help. And we had the help. We had the National Guard. We had doctors and nurses that were on furlough because they weren't working in the hospitals. We had resources that could have helped prevent these deaths. And we needed somebody to reach out and be the liaison between the federal government and our state government. And that's what our U.S. representative should have been doing. And instead, he was resisting and fighting and not helping. And I get extremely upset by that because that's what I've done my whole career. And to see him drop the ball on that, I thought was absolutely horrific. And I don't see him preparing for the fall. He's still resisting and fighting this administration instead of preparing for the fall to prevent a potential onslaught of, honestly, death again.
Or prepare. Now, we did see something like that out in Western Mass, as you know, at the Veterans.
The Holyoke. And that's a state-ran facility. It's absolutely awful. And we knew now that investigation has taken place, we knew that they had problems. We should have been there proactively preventing it rather than reacting. And that's what we see over and over again.
Just for a question, as you're talking a little bit more about with the nursing homes, Tracy, have you done anything during this time? And I know it's so hard because now, as you're just saying, we're under the COVID restrictions. And as you were mentioning, even your candidacy and trying to get out there is very limited now because you're not able to do those direct, door-to-door type things. So social media, I'll just take the second to say social media is so important. So anybody that is watching, please share this show for one thing on waretv.org so that your friends and your family can hear and see what Tracy has to say, or any other candidates that come on the show. We just want to utilize it more than ever this go around. And then also the other media things, which we will be putting on our feed so that people will be able to see that. But have you been able to talk to any of those nursing homes and places in our district to see if there's things that they're concerned about and already saying things to you, Tracy, by chance?
Just that they themselves are working to secure more PPE. They themselves are working to implement the policies and procedures moving forward, seeing what they can learn from the past. The past, just the spring as they're getting ready for the fall. But yeah, I still have connections with the skilled nursing community throughout the whole United States. And again, so many other states did better, which means to me we should have done better.
And can do.
And need to do and can do better. And that kind of segues right into why I'm running in the first place.
There you go.
And it segues into, so what are you going to do differently than Jim McGovern? And again, regardless of who the president is, come this election, we need to work with that administration. So whether you're talking about a President Trump or a President Biden, we need to work with them in order to get the resources we deserve for our district. Jim McGovern, again, he's been in office for 23 years. Donald Trump's only been in office for 3.5 years. Jim McGovern has been there for Democrat presidents. He's been there for Republican presidents. He's been there when they've been in charge of the House, when they've been the minority in the House. over 23 years, what has he been able to do for us in our community?
I was just going to ask you that. Can you tell me? Because unless Jim comes on, and like I said, I just want to keep reminding people so that everyone knows, this station, this show is opening up to any candidate that's running. My producer is actually reaching out to all the candidates. We are reaching out to Jim McGovern. As we said before, we're reaching out to Ann Goby. All the incumbents are definitely being asked to come on here because we want them to be able to come and share what they thought their votes had been, what they've done. We want them to talk about that. So I'm sorry, I just wanted to mention that we are going both sides, but as you said, so what's your feelings of what you've done your own research?
Worcester is the largest city in our district.
Okay.
Worcester is the second largest city in all of New England. So it's really how Worcester goes is kind of what we kind of can compare to the rest of the districts. So for instance, in Worcester is the top 20 list for most poverty-stricken cities in the whole United States. 20% of Worcester residents make less than $15,000 a year.
Wow.
Look this up. This is before COVID. Wow. Since COVID, Massachusetts is the number one rated for the highest unemployment in the nation. So if Massachusetts is the highest unemployment in the nation, what do you think that does to our district? We're the number one in the state.
Yeah.
You can look up this one. Before COVID, Worcester was the number 5 city in the whole United States for homeless students.
Wow.
Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable.
Wow.
Now, if you guys know about Dr. Ben Carson.
Yes.
Dr. Ben Carson is the director of the Housing and Human Development.
Yeah.
He has this wonderful program called Opportunity Zones. Mm-hmm. In our district, we have 8 identified opportunity zones right now today that have been labeled by the federal government as areas where we qualify for help and assistance. And that help and assistance, it's already there. It's not raising taxes. It's nothing out of your pocket. It's already low-lying fruit that we qualify for. But since our congressman refuses to work with this administration, refuses to work with Ben Carson, we are going without. Those opportunity zones are up in Orange. They're in Athol, they're in Leominster, they're in Worcester, they're in Spencer, and they're down in Webster.
Wow.
Right
it crosses
then and there.
all the areas.
And if we had a representative that worked for us instead of against the president, we would be head and shoulders above where we are today. And we obviously need the help. And now with this pandemic, all those numbers that I just quoted, it's even going to be worse. Mm-hmm. You know, we see all the businesses closing. We see everything happening. And right now, more than ever, we're going to need the full force of our federal government behind us to help us. You know, we hear year after year, we hear the excuse, well, it's because all the mills closed. All the mills closed, there's nothing we can do about it. Well, that's not true, guys. There's a lot we can do about it. There are success stories all around the country, and we are not a success story. And after 23 years, I think it's about time that we deserve it. We deserve to be a success story.
So what I hear from you, Tracy, is one of the things you want to do if you get elected, if the numbers are there and if people take the time and really do the research, what you want to do is start working for us. So often I have seen, too, that people that, as everyone understands, she's running for Congress, that it's a position that is working in Washington but reports back to the state, and it's that liaison that's trying to, like you just said, get the monies that we all pay in. We all pay in our federal taxes, just like we all pay in our state taxes, and it's getting the right people there to bring it back so that we can be utilizing it in our own area. Right
now, on average, Massachusetts averages about 50 cents to 75 cents back per dollar we spend. Okay. Per dollar that we give to the federal government. There's states out there that get $3, $4, $5 back for every dollar they spend. You know, I think we at least should break even on some of this, especially in areas, again, those opportunity zones that we're hurting. And we're struggling, and we have been for decades. Our congressman has been in Congress for decades. Decades.
Yeah.
How much longer are we going to keep doing the same thing over and over again and expect new results?
Well, again, the word I heard is that you're there to work for us. You don't care, and what I hear you saying is you won't care if it's a Republican, a Democrat, an independent, whoever is in the administration. That's got, like you said, that changes every 4 years. That's got nothing to do with what you need to do for the state.
Exactly right. If you look at the President of the United States, they're there for a maximum of 8 years. 8 years total, that's it. You know, half the country can hate Bush, half the country can hate Clinton, half the country can hate Obama, and half the country can hate Trump. It's 8 years. We're talking about people that have been in office 20, 30, 40 years that are doing absolutely nothing except for destroying the fabric of our country, causing us to fight, and causing absolute chaos literally across our country. It's our Congress. Our Congress is broken. It's completely dysfunctional. And our congressman is right in the middle and part of that dysfunction.
Well, we have seen him on TV lately. I said if people have it, I know a lot of times our Congress are in Washington and you're not really seeing who they are or what they're doing, but we certainly have seen ours. I won't say what, but I have seen them on TV lately. It'll be up to you if you want to bring anything particular up.
I kind of do. I'll bring this up. Jim McGovern is the House Rules Committee chair.
Okay.
He ran last election against me, and he promised us to be more bipartisan and to work better. As the House Rules Committee, he determines what bills come to the floor, what amendments get put on, how much time everybody's given. You guys can look this up as well. We're in the 116th Congress. Jim McGovern has allowed 0 open bills, meaning the bill is what it is. You can't add or subtract to it. So the 0 open bills, and he has allowed the least amount of minority party amendments ever in the history of Congress. He has allowed the least number of Republican amendments to any bill. So when those bills get passed in Congress and they go over to Senate, of course they're not going to pass the Senate. Then they blame the Senate for not passing them, but they're the least bipartisan bills that have ever been presented to the Senate. So he can sit there and blame Mitch McConnell all he wants, but the fact is they're putting 100% partisan bills in front of them. Nobody's working together, and they're just going back and forth, fighting and fighting. And you know what? We're the victims in all of this. We are the victims, and we gotta stop this nonsense.
And you're right. It's so often that you just see it. Who they blaming? It's like as long as they have, and I'm just going to say, as long as they have Trump up here, that's all they blame. Everybody's like pointing fingers there, and I keep going.
3.5 years.
What's that got to do with? Like you just said, the bills have nothing to do with the president. He'll sign something or won't sign something if it ever gets to his desk. But it's between Congress and Senate. And nothing's going.
It goes both ways. You know, people will say, "Well, would you say the same thing about a Republican?" I said, "Yes. If I was living in a state with an incumbent Republican, I'd be going after him too."
Absolutely.
But the fact is my congressman, your congressman, our congressman is Jim McGovern. He's been there 23 years, and this is where I feel like I can help the most.
Well, you're also talking, it's not even just the years, and I'm one, and I've said it for both sides also, for term limits. And you're right, it would be for Republicans or Democrats. And some people have said, well, there's some really good people that we'd lose. And it's like, well, they should do their good. And when they leave, hopefully somebody else would be coming in.
You know
that's going to carry on.
You know who was really good? George Washington. George Washington was an absolutely amazing president, and they begged him to stay. And he said no. It wasn't even a law that forced him out. He knew what was best for the country, and he stepped aside. If these people really knew what was best for the country, they would be stepping aside.
If they do know
but they're working for themselves, and it's obvious at this point. Jim McGovern doesn't live in the district. He's from Worcester. He has not lived in Worcester for 20, 30 years or more. He went to college in D.C. He's been a D.C. intern. He's never had a real job. I'm a physical therapist, and after my Medicare case, I got blackballed from the industry, and I could no longer work in corporate America. But you know what? I'm a clinician, and I started working again. I started doing home health care, and I have since opened just a small little private practice outpatient PT clinic, and I get the opportunity to help my neighbors every single day. But you know what? I opened that business from scratch. You know, I had to get my LLC, I had to get the equipment, I had to get the build out, and during the coronavirus, I had to close down. I closed down for 3-4 months, and then I had to reopen. So right now, today, I'm opening my business, doing like a new startup, while I'm campaigning for Congress. I am one of you. I am one of us. I am who everybody says they want to send to Congress, because I know what it's like to be a real person, quite frankly. You know, once you're in Congress for this amount of time, you're dealing with budgets and numbers in the billions and now trillions of dollars.
Don't mean anything. It's like
that's
nothing to
monopoly
them.
money,
Yes,
right?
yes, it's
for
fake money.
us,
I totally
we deal
agree.
in hundreds,
Totally
maybe
agree.
thousands of dollars. They forget what it's like. You know, they don't do the same health care we have. They don't have the same worries we have. They don't worry about the stock market like we do. These are things that they have totally lost track of, and that's why, again, term limits is so important, and I'm 100% for term limits.
And I would love to talk to you more about term limits, and I really don't want to lose your time here that you have with us, Tracy, about that, but that is a whole separate issue by itself. So our show always goes down quickly, and I want to make sure that we've got a chance to hit. So you're running against Jim McGovern, so it's for Congress, running against Jim McGovern, who's a 23-year incumbent. He is a Democrat. You are a Republican or independent?
I'm running as a Republican.
Running as a Republican. Currently, do you have anything on the docket as far as debates or, you know, meetings so that people can see the two of you together? Is there anything that's already
I'm
booked?
asking. We're asking for a debate. I would love the opportunity to sit down with Mr. McGovern again. We had a couple debates last time in 2018, and I think it's a tremendous opportunity to do that again in 2020. I think it's only fair for every one of the constituents. Every one of us should be able to decide and listen to both of us. So I'm hoping that happens. I know that from what I'm hearing that we're looking for organizations to invite us, and I will be there as soon as I'm invited, because I look forward to that opportunity. Yes,
I totally agree, and that is why, just for people to know here, we will be reaching out. My producer will be reaching out to the McGovern campaign to see if we can put something together in this awkward time because of COVID. It's very difficult. We can't have the big, you know, auditoriums and things like we've had in the past, but actually maybe that's good. We need to get back down to our grassroots, our, you know, basics, and we can do it.
Markey and Kennedy, they had 7 televised debates in this state.
Wow, I didn't realize
so
that.
So it is possible to do this. There is no COVID restrictions on you and I doing this right now in front of a couple people. So there needs to be debates. That's part of our democracy. That's what people deserve. They deserve to hear from both sides.
Absolutely. So
and
we're
going
to work to help you try to get that done. And hopefully, if there's other groups out there that are interested, we'll be also trying to reach out to them also to say, how about if we get it done? It's only September. We've got time, people. We've got to get it going though, because I know there's early vote and there's early voting of things going on. So there's a lot of other things happening these days. We know we've had some rallies going on even in town here regarding Back the Blue and things like that. Are there other areas, Tracy, that you want to talk about that are you, I know there's a lot going on with the police and things. Yeah,
I fully 100% back our police officers and our police departments throughout the state of Massachusetts. I think what's happening in the country right now is absolutely horrific. You know, you turn on your television and you know, I just see there's such stark contrast happening in the United States right now, and I don't understand how it's even a decision at this point. You know, there's rioting and looting and burning in the streets, that they're tearing down statues, and they try to make it sound like, oh, it's just in the South. But you know what? They just took down a Teddy Roosevelt statue in New York just last week. I saw George Washington getting torn down with a burning flag on his head. I've seen things being vandalized and destroyed. The left called the 4th of July a white supremacist holiday. What is happening? You know, Maura Healey, our Attorney General here in our state, was on record for saying, you know what, America's on fire, but that's okay. We need a new forest to grow. Well, now look what's happening in the West. They're literally burning down the states. This is absolute insanity. And again, we need to get off the same treadmill.
Yeah.
And we need to vote some of these people out and get back to the foundation of our country, to loving on our country, respecting our flag, and law and order. Law and order is extremely important. A moral and just society, that's what the United States is based on.
I was just going to say, we are based on our laws. That was one of the things. We're a country of rules and laws, and we have people there that are making the laws. If the laws are on the book, then we have the police to enforce them. To me, that's got nothing to do with, Republican or Democrat. I definitely am for our police. And just as you and I both know, working in the healthcare field too, there are good and bad in every profession. Mm-hmm. So to make it sound like every other profession is wonderful and the police are the only ones that might have some rogue people are crazy. I mean, we have that everywhere.
Well, it's just so sad because the laws that were passed that impacted the Massachusetts police were stronger than the ones that were happening out that were impacting George Floyd's area. Our police officers didn't deserve any of that.
Oh, the things that happen, absolutely.
And every single one of the departments that I've talked to, they're able to sit down. If you have ideas, they're going to implement them. They're going to change. They reach out to their communities. They work with their communities. And so, this nonsense needs to just stop.
So again, our time goes by really quickly, and I do want to give Tracy just a few seconds to complete your thoughts. I want to tell you now, too, that you're definitely welcome to come back. We will be sharing Tracy's information, and definitely would love to have you back to talk about some other issue, and hopefully we'll have you here on a debate. But why don't you wrap it up, Tracy, with saying what
you're just not going to get more of a stark contrast between me and Jim McGovern. When it comes to trying to actually get work done for us, we talked about the opportunity zones. We talked about being proactive, trying to look. We know a problem's happening. We knew the problem was coming to our nursing homes. We knew that back in February. We could have proactively worked to prevent a lot of those problems. I like to prevent problems. I don't like to react to problems. That's a huge difference. Jim McGovern was one of the first ones to come out to abolish ICE. Jim McGovern is for open borders, sanctuary cities. I'm not. I am for immigration reform. It needs to be moral and just and fair. It needs to be clear, and it shouldn't take 10 years and $20,000 to happen. Mm-hmm. But we need to make some changes. They've been talking about immigration since I was a kid, right? Yeah. It goes back and forth, back and forth. Let's just fix it and move forward. I really think with Congress being as broken as they are, and some of these easy fixes, they don't want to fix these problems. They absolutely do not want to fix these problems. I do. I want to fix them and move forward.
And I think on that note, we're going to take it that Tracy wants to be the one to get into the government and help fix it. So until we meet again, thank you for watching Meeting After the Meeting.